Howdy, I'm Derek, and in this quick video, I'm going to show you how you can use an Excel scrapbook to save a lot of time and reuse your work over and over again. Stay tuned to the end where I'll show you how you can take this approach to the next level. Now, how many times does this happen to you? You want to reuse a formula that you made many years ago because it would be perfect for your current project. Only you have no idea what file it's in, what folder it's in, and you spend like 30 minutes or so looking for it before you're like, I give up, I start from scratch. Nobody likes redoing work, right? But here's the good news. There's a way to minimize that by using an Excel scrapbook. By the way, this approach works with things well beyond Excel, but as widely as Excel is used and as many features as it has, it makes the perfect candidate. Now, it makes sense to store your scrapbook within an Excel file, but you can use whatever, Notes app or something similar if you want to. The key is to get started, update it regularly, and reference it often. Let's take a look at some example content. Now in this first sheet I've got right here, this is a list of formulas that I find really helpful. Now in my own scrapbook, there are a lot more than this, but I didn't want to overwhelm you guys. So this is a mix of formulas that have creative combinations of functions, or maybe like below, we've got some Lambda custom definitions. So what I've got here is the formula. The name is if it's a Lambda, the file that I use it in, find that helpful. Any notes about what the heck was going on because you might quickly forget. So think of that as a gift to your future self. All throughout the different tabs we're going to walk through here, kind of putting some notes in there is always very helpful. So the idea is that you have something really useful. You'll take this, you'll copy and paste it, and just update any of those references that you might have for where you're pasting it to. And then for the Lambdas, this is absolutely awesome. If you don't know what Lambda is, I'm going to drop a link in the comments below so you can kind of get started and maybe use some examples like the ones you're seeing here. But anytime you see something that's really, really helpful and possibly use it again in the future, add it to the list. If you're in doubt, go ahead and add it to the list. It's easier to delete things than it is to go back and add them later. So formulas, very, very good example of that. Now, saving time is a big benefit, but another thing I found really, really helpful is that it unlocks your creativity and makes you think back to like, oh yeah, I remember using that. I can do that again. And it really helps you as a catalyst to be thinking about things to do. Another great example is formats. Now, specifically here, I'm thinking number formats, conditional formats, maybe borders. The more clicks it takes to do something, and this is well beyond formats, really anything, but definitely with formats, the more clicks it takes to do something, the better the candidate is for reusing it in your scrapbook. So as an example here, if you've got unformatted, here's the formatted, here's the code, nobody would want to type this whole thing out, right? That takes a lot of time. So copying and pasting it can make it much easier to do. Again, there's those notes for context over there, right? A lot of people don't get creative enough with their number formats. This is a great way to leverage that. And then with conditional formats down here, whether it's banding, those alternated colored rows, or you're searching, or you got some tie-outs, or identifying hard-coded information, which is usually not a good idea, reuse those as much as you can. Another good example is data validation. Now, this is already not used enough in Excel, but if you can make it 1 or 2 clicks away instead of several of them, then that gives you less and less of an excuse not to use them. So it could be integer or decimal or text or date or a list like you're seeing here. Could be a custom one like here's how we enter an invoice number, or maybe it's got to be a zip code or a particular date or something like that. Reuse those as much as you can and then tweak that input message a little bit, the error message, etc. Now, lookups, another great example. If you're constantly referring to a list of values, maybe that powers one of those data validation lists, or maybe it's something you're using to power a lookup, or it's just something that collaboratively you share, another great example. Now, there are also ways to leverage a custom list in Excel where this is always available, but it's tied to your application, so not quite as easy to share. If you got something collaborative, this might be good. So colors, probably not so much. I use colors a lot in demo examples, so there's that. Directions, maybe it's people, or maybe it's states or locations or department numbers or product numbers or dates or whatever. Having lookup lists you can easily copy and paste is super helpful. Now, one of the newer things that I've been using in my scrapbook is AI prompts. So a couple of good examples here with formulas and macros. When I find that something was really helpful and the output of the AI prompt was really good on the first try, or maybe just with small tweaks, I'll put that prompt in here so that I can use it again later, if nothing else, and as an example of what to use. My favorite AI prompt framework is Spices. You don't know what that is? give it a quick Google and you'll find it, or even ask AI what that framework looks like and it'll kind of give you the outline for it. But if you find a prompt that works really well, add it to your list. Put a little description about what that really meant. It might even be helpful to put in the exact AI tool that you use, like Copilot or Gemini, ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, off to the side as well, because some work better than others depending on what you're trying to do. So definitely take advantage of that one. A couple more here. Key file links. If you're collaborating with other people, very similar to the lookup list, like a list of locations or dates or your chart of accounts, an org chart of people, or maybe a checklist of some sort. Another great example of how to do that. Description, notes, etc. Now here's why this is helpful than just pinning them within the file up here or within the taskbar at the bottom, because you can make them dynamic. Notice how this one is linked over here to a date such that if I update that to the next month of April, that it will automatically update this file path over here. I could even throw in a hyperlink to that. Just makes it more dynamic. And then lastly here in my scrapbook example is a list of key resources I found. These are great blogs from creators, especially in the Excel world, that I found really helpful for solving a problem, giving me examples, learning a new feature or something. So definitely recommend that you do that. And then there's a shameless plug to the Excelevate one where this video will actually be a part of the accompanying blog article as well. What did you find helpful? Maybe put that over there in the description. Now, are these the only things you should keep in your scrapbook? Of course not. You might have several more tabs. I'd probably recommend a table of contents, the more of them that you have. The key is to take that knowledge so you're not rethinking it and that you can help it to reinforce the learning that you have and find and reuse things really, really quickly. I would also recommend trading some of these ideas and tips with other people. Maybe have a quick little meetup in the office or virtually and say, hey, what's on your scrapbook list? Well, here's what's on mine, because then you're all elevated. Okay? Now, last couple of minutes, we'll go through how we can take this approach to the next level. Okay, let's go back over to formulas. Now, it's great that we can copy and paste these, but what if we could make it even easier? So one of the things that I've used for a long time is a little search formulas box. Okay, so we're going to power that up over here. Now, this shows you the last 10 of these that have been searched. So what I'm looking for is actually this one right here, because I was using it just the other day. Here's where it was saved at. Here's the entire formula. We've got maintenance on our saved favorites. What date was it saved, etc. Now, you can save any formula that you really, really like and reuse it again later. And here's the magical part, the shift references box. What that allows me to do is no matter where the formula was in the source file when I saved it, it's going to allow me to shift those references. So as an example, I'm going to enter this, okay? Now, in the source file, this formula is somewhere over here, is in like column J. It basically does a copy paste to shift those references. You see how these references here, there's about 10 or 12 of them, are linked to everything next to that. Well, it updates those for me so I don't have to. Kind of magical. By the way, this and the other tools we're going to look at here in this next level part are all included in the Excelevate add-in. I'm going to put a link in the comments below so you can try that out and learn more. Here's another example with lambdas. I've been on a big kick and I like to reuse these a lot, so I'm going to come down here and notice we have this one for calculating the date of Easter. Here's the group it's in, the definition, comments about it. We can edit those in bulk. We can add them one or in a whole group, etc. So when I click enter, it's going to say, hey, here's others in the group you already have. Do you want to override those? Sure. If there's an update, great, we can do that. And it'll instantly inject that lambda in here. So all we have to do is press L. I like to start with that L to make it obvious it's a lambda. Go down here to Easter, fill in one or more dates, and instantly we have the dates for Easter for last year and then the next 4 after that. Awesome stuff, reusing your efforts there. And then similarly with formats. So over here, I've got a couple of fill colors I like to use. So there's my 5 favorites I'm just going to cycle through. Could be you want to do the same thing with number formats. These are automatic shortcuts that are like 6 in 1. Can even do borders. If I shift out of the way, you'll notice I'm shifting the border between my favorites. That one's especially good because those can be really crazy. And then the last thing here, with the number format specifically, there's a whole bunch I like to use, not just 5, and I don't want to have to go looking them up anywhere. So I run a macro called search number formats. So in the background, I've got this library that looks a lot like the list here, only there's a whole lot more. And then what I'll do is just search for something like percentage, red, green, dash. Okay, so here we go. So I want it to look like that. Or maybe I want to flip the sign over here and make it red, right? So there's an example of how to do that. And then very last thing, conditional formats. There are several of these that I use all the time to do tie-outs or to just highlight things. So here's an example of how I do that. I'm going to use option G here in this little picker prompt. And what that means is it's going to highlight based on whatever threshold that we enter here, whether this is good or bad. So looks like we're off by more than 0, so it's going to make that green. If I override that with the 0, it highlights it as green as opposed to red. So the idea is to make this extremely easy to reuse the things that you've done over and over again. So as a starting point, use a scrapbook like this. By the way, you can download this for free as a little template to get you started. Look at the comments, the link in the comments below for that. But once you take that to the next level and really start using shortcuts to drive it, you save even more time. So that is it for today's look at an Excel scrapbook, okay? It's all about reusing your effort, freeing up time and precious brain power for your most important tasks. Now, to leverage some of those custom tools, you can go over to the Excelevate website at www.excelevate.co or use a link in the comments below. If you like this, please give it a like, comment with maybe what you would put in your scrapbook or what you liked, share with a friend, and of course, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss out on other great tools, tips, and tricks just like this one. Thank you for watching and have an excellent rest of your day.